sorry.
Thank you. No worries.
Can you guys give a hand for Brother Tremaine and this beautiful work?
Thanks, guys.
First, I'm gonna ask you that we have some stools here. Is that an invitation for people in the public to sit down there?
For who?
The stools.
Oh, I didn't put those there.
Oh.
Yeah,
Shall we take them out?
yeah, let's take them down.
Let's take it down. I got that. You got it? Brilliant.
Thanks,
Uh,
Theastre.
Now, first and foremost, I wanted to talk to you about...
Theastre likes to move stuff around.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Where are we in the presence of?
So this story I'm telling is called a proper funeral, a proper burial. Finally, thanks America. So that's the name of this thing. And when I got the message from you and Theastre about the format for being able to present a story, or as people like to call it, artwork. When it was given this 2-hour slot, I had other artworks ready to go that I've been working on, that I've showed some people, and I said, oh, well, I can do something that's more ephemeral. And not in the sense that, like, this thing disappears after 2 hours, but ephemeral as awake. And, yeah, this you guys are at a viewing, awake. A lot of cultures do wakes and viewings, particularly the culture I come from, I grew up in, is Baptist Christian. I'm not one, but my family is. My grandma is. My mom, she is. So actually, the last wake I went to was my mother's wake, and I thought it was the most horrible idea ever invented, going to a wake and open or closed casket, to be in the presence of something that you love is no longer here. But actually, as painful it was, when I think back, it's a beginning to moving past that pain and not moving past it, living with it. And that's how this idea started, thinking about my mom so much. And where did it start? And it started with the wake till what I'm dealing with now. And so to bring that back to this piece, America's never had a wake or a funeral for all the slaves that have built the country off of cotton, all the indentured servants after slavery ended, everyone that's been lynched, shot by a cop, told they can't do this, all the atrocities that have happened to Africans that were taken from Africa and brought to America. And to this day in 2019, there's been no reconciliation, from just logistically, like reparations, like financially, to even educational-wise. There's a lot of conversations I have with people across the world who say, oh, I didn't know that about the slave trade, or I didn't know this, or I didn't know that, or I didn't know that, to people not seeing how being taken from Africa, having your language stripped from you, being considered a secondary subhuman, how that connects from the cotton fields to, like, I don't know, south side of Chicago, and having the highest crime rate. Not saying the onus isn't on any of those kids that are killing each other, but there's a direct line from slavery to that.
It makes me think, Tremaine, that, like, when you say, even though the wake, when you went to your mom's wake, it seems like an unreasonable ceremony. That the person you remembered in their life, in their vitality, and in their goodness, the last moment, the last encounter is this other encounter for which you've never seen them. Kind of the worst encounter, in a way. And that thing is healing. There's a way in which it feels like maybe there's not been a funeral because racism, slavery, maybe those things still exist. And it's this idea that we may need, a collective we may need to make our own mourning rituals in order to kind of deal with the trauma, these kind of ongoing traumatic experiences. And I wonder sometimes who determines when the funeral happens, right? Which is why this is such an interesting proposition for me. And if you could reflect a little bit on who decides when the wake and what the obituary, because I think that mourning that you're talking about, or that recognition of a ritual act, is super important. So if we could just talk a little bit about ritual. You've set up for us in this room somewhat of a ritual. Yeah. And so the contents of this thing, why you think we need it here, beyond the object, this ritual object makes us need to do something. Yeah. If you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely know, I don't think. I know that it's something that we need to meditate on. And like my meditation on it started December 2017. I've always, from a young age, I've been curious about the struggles of not just African Americans, but all human beings. And I've read countless things, articles, and books about, what humans go through, And but in 2010, I moved to London. My old job moved me to London. And London was the first place I've been to where there's classism here, but the racism is like the lowest amount I've ever felt in my life.
The structure of
the structure even reminded me of like Miles Davis's autobiography when he spoke about how he felt treated as a human being when he was in Europe, in Paris, and in London and places. And I had that same, in a way, euphoric feeling. And I had that feeling for 8 years. Yeah. And then my old job moved me back to LA in December 2017. And coming back to America after 8 years being abroad was like a harsh ejection from the womb. And it was like this is like pseudo womb of like safety, and coming back, American news, American newspapers, American people, American black people, American white people, any color, back in New York, being in LA, it was like skin was coming off my skin was coming off, peeling off emotionally. So I saw the artist Kara Walker. She put up like this really like kind of funny, snarky thing. She put up a cotton reef, a picture of it, and said, "Merry Christmas." And I just thought that was the most funniest, trolly thing ever. And then I went and like Googled it, and I found them. They're selling them on Amazon. And I bought one, and I'm in my new house. I don't even got furniture, and I just had this cotton reef sitting in my fireplace. And not that one. I made that one. But the cotton reefs you could get on Amazon. Got the fake cotton, real cotton, but like processed cotton, like Q-tip cotton, and it's too white. And literally, that thing went from like a kind of object that I thought looked great, that had some type of meaning, to became like a talisman for me. I don't know if I was just going crazy in LA, spending so much time at home, staring at this cotton reef, no TV. Whenever I come home from working for hours and stuff like that, traveling, and I go travel the world, come back, and I see the cotton reef. I go to work, I be working all day, come back, see the cotton reef, and it's like it started talking to me. Crazy as that might sound, it really was. And seeing the cotton reef made me think about all of it. America.
But it's a particular America that you bring here, no? Because there is a reference, and I want you to talk about the importance of the African flag, David Hammond's, in the piece not only, but also to your practice. You have said in many occasions how he had there is something about his aesthetic and his way of address art in that respect with his blackness, with his attitude towards. At times, you know, an enclosed way of seeing how a black artist should behave, should produce, should engage, right? And I
Yeah.
think some of the work you do, and I'm hoping that also that gets us to unpack a little bit the experience that you bring us here for, is trying also to unveil. No? So I wonder if you can talk a little bit more about Hammond's practice in relation to your work.
Yeah, of course. If I hadn't discovered, when I first discovered David Hammond, I was really angry because like the art world had fed me Basquiat only, and he's like that Basquiat's the only black meaningful artist. And when I discovered people like David Hammond and Theastre Gates and Arthur Jaffa, Kara Walker, and the list is, you know, Crystal Field, you know, I learned about David Hammond through my best friend Asad and Virgil. All these conversations we've been having for years, and his name would come up, and like we have group chats, and they send pictures of his work, and I was like, oh, I know this work, I know this hoodie, I know this the Pan-African American flag that he did. So I knew these works, but I didn't have a name attached to it. So my first experience with Hammond was anger at myself. Firstly, like, why do I only know Basquiat? Why don't I know who this guy is? Then also, so first, angry at my own ignorance, and then angry at the establishment that wasn't he being pushed the way, and all, not just him, so many artists. So that was the first thing, and then the second thing was like the way he plays with iconography and symbols. That's the thing that made me fall in love, and I think part and parcel was like I'm obsessed with iconography and symbols. And I think that just comes from like, America's a place of symbols, right? And then also just like being into like style, being into comic books, being into just art in general, all facets of music. Going through a record store, looking at album covers. Sometimes you buy albums just because of the cover, because of the symbols on it, the iconography. You know what I mean? If you see an album cover that isn't just generic and has like the person on it and has something else, that's more attractive. So seeing him playing with symbols, playing with the flag, playing with the spade, playing with words, and getting this stuff across, that was the first thing about Hammond, and just the way he holds the line. But then it's almost like, yeah, he's definitely been a spirit guide. You know, even like, you know, part of this, a layer of this thing is an homage to him. But then also it's like, oh, we can't wave. Like, so he had the flag waving, hanging on the wall. But for me, I'm like, we can't even have that flag wave. Full staff, half staff, on the wall. We got to have the funeral first and have reconciliation. And then you can wave it proudly, where the funerals never happened. So it's definitely an homage to him. Because my thing is, I think part of my job is, Hammond is almost 80, right? I'm 38. And then there's a kid that stands on the same corner that I used to hang out on in Jamaica, Queens. Yeah. And I'm, artist or storyteller, I'm a bridge to get that kid to David Hammond. By the grace of my mom or life or whatever you believe in, I can achieve 1% of what he's had in my lifetime. But if I can just get people bridged over to him, bridged over to reconciliation of the struggle, what we've been through as a people, all these stories, if I can just get people to these stories, that's really I see my job is to get people, a conductor, get people to these stories, yeah, or like a gardener, help you see the garden, help the flowers get light so they can grow. That's like my whole thing. So that's why I've incorporated his incorporation of the Pan-African flag, which, you know, as you guys may or may not know, Pan-African flag was created in 1920 by Marcus Garvey, and originally it's a red stripe, black stripe, green stripe, and yeah, and then Hammonds interpret that, and yeah.
And I see in your work this kind of attention to bring back, as David does, this to imprint a new meaning. No, one of the things that I felt that you were saying before, Theastre, that has to do with the way that funeral that we're waiting to happen. That it's about paying homage, and in order to pay homage, you had to create a story. And it seems that we are still in disagreement on what is the story we want to tell.
Yeah.
And what is the material, what is the language that's going to deliver that story. Yeah. So then the kid in the garden in Jamaica, Queens, you can reach, like either you as a conduit, Theastre as a conduit, Aspirian as a conduit, can reach that. No?
Yeah, and we gotta be like, you gotta be slick and witty, and to get that message across, and play with the establishment and build a system next to the system. Like my favorite David Hammond story is the Whitney Biennial had kept wanting to have him in it. And he kept, you know where I'm going, because and they kept wanting him to have him, courting him to be in it. And he was like, no, for years. And then he finally was like, okay, I'll be in it, but here's this Miles Davis painting. But you can't say you got it from me. And you got to put it in a biennial. And that was a slick way of saluting Miles, because you guys are never going to respect Miles the way you respect a painter, because he's a musician and other reasons. And he used his power as a bridge to get Miles across. So that's what I learned a lot. That's like my favorite David Hammond story. And that's something I want to do. It's like a sleight of hand trick. So I'm always trying to do sleight of hand tricks,
Brother Tremaine, so I want to talk about the relationships between the world of design and say the way that you think about iconography and symbol in the world of design, and if it's a separate world called art, the world of art, in the way that art or an artist or person that would refer to themselves as an artist uses iconography, symbol. And I want you to then think about how this move, which would not fit in like Stussy, or it's not a move for Louis Vuitton. Yeah. What does it mean for you to assemble these things, born of the spirit of one of the most important living artists in the world?
Yeah.
What does it mean for you to make something? And when you talk about being a bridge, what does it mean to make? For Tremaine to make? And then when you talk about being a bridge, do you imagine there being a bridge between the world of design or the world of images and iconography and branding and marketing and the world of art, austere, exclusive, over there, not for everyone? Can you talk about those worlds? So your relationship to making and those worlds.
So I have what I do. So for me, designing a T-shirt or a garment, or doing a DJ set where I'm MCing while Eastside's DJing, is the same as that.
Yeah.
But I'm not a foolish man in a sense. I know I live in a world that has a system, and has certain walls where, let's say like Frank Ocean and Rauschenberg.
Yes.
To me, they're both bricolage artists.
Yeah.
But the art world says Frank Ocean's here because anyone can buy the album Blonde.
Yeah.
But only 1% of the population can buy a Rauschenberg.
Yes.
And they say it's worth more. So I understand that system, and I'm doing my part, small part with my tribe, to build a system next to the system that breaks down that wall of Frank Ocean, Siegfried song, and a Rauschenberg is up here, and Frank Ocean song's here. I'm trying to be like, tell people they're all the same.
Yeah.
If it's good, it's good. If it has soul. That's my whole thing. Does the item that you design for the catwalk, for a gallery, for yourself, does it have a soul?
Yeah.
are you turning something that's inanimate? Because these are all inanimate objects
Yeah.
that we're animating through soul, through storytelling. Can you do that? And so I have two brains, a brain that lives in the world like Babylon,
Yeah.
and then I have the world that I created, that I've been in since I was a little kid.
Right.
And I'm trying to break down the wall between those because those titles and stuff destroy people. That's why you see artists go crazy. People, and not even just artists, a regular person go crazy because there's these systems that are in place that help a small amount of people.
Yeah.
And then the majority of people suffer because of these systems.
But the artists you're talking about who go crazy, let's say, they go crazy because they're winning in a system. Now, I really want to go into this a little bit. You're saying something happens because a system takes an extremely talented person, locks him in the system, and then creates a set of boundaries on the parameters of that person's talent. Is that what you're talking about?
100%. And then a lot of times, and that goes back to the Miles Davis. You want a David Hammonds? Here's a Miles Davis painting. Because you're never going to take it. Because you won't see him more than a musician. You don't see him as an artist. And I feel like a lot of artists and creatives or people, even not just people. I give you an example. My mom. Last time I spoke to my mom, she was supremely depressed. She said to me, she's like, Tremaine, do you think there's anything you can do, like going back to school, that can help get you a better position at Marc Jacobs, at your fashion job? And I said, oh, Mom, I figured some things out, blah, 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 blah. And I was at the beginnings of all this. And she was like, because I've tried. I didn't go to college. I had your brother when I was 17.
She wanted you to have a good job.
Yeah. She's like, I've tried to, with the small amount of education I have, I've done the best I can for you. I said, Mom, I travel the world, and the first thing people always say to me is, who are your parents?
Yeah.
But for her, the system she was caught in was in the male, white and black male, patriarchal system of you cook, and I'm not knocking my dad or the patriarchy of Harlem, Georgia, but you cook, you raise the kids. I can go off to the Army, learn how to become a cameraman, travel the world, win Emmy Awards, but you taking care of all of us. You're the manager of the Emorys. Yeah. And I didn't realize that till my mom died. So this is also a proper funeral for her, even though we had a funeral. So that's like the personal layer of this. But anyway, so macro for micro. That's the system my mom was in, and she had these parameters. Yeah. Even though my mom had James Baldwin books, Andy Warhol books. Yeah. Tremaine, check out this David Lynch film. Yeah. Tremaine, read this. Tremaine, turn off the cartoons. We're going to see Pavarotti in Central Park. Yeah. The Harlem Boys Choir is supporting him. Yeah. All this stuff my mom was taking me to, massaging my brain, making me not become a victim of Jamaica Queens. Yeah. But she can only bounce around this really tiny, she was a ball in this really tiny pinball machine. Yeah. An artist that's a billionaire artist, sometimes I have the same feeling my mom had.
Absolutely.
But that's what I mean. Like, she really hacked the system for you to begin with. She's the first, in a way, I should say it's an homage, but she's the first that does that breaks the ice, that clinch the structure. Yeah. And in a way, you are also taking ownership of that, transforming that meaning into what you're doing as a practice. 100%. And I want us to talk a little bit more about that, like how you're hacking not only design, it's also the art world.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because I feel the art world, like, example, let's talk about black artists, right, or women artists. We won't talk about black artists, talk about women artists. So a woman artist is more valuable if there's only one or two. Yeah. If there's a proliferation, that might devalue said woman artist's art. So it's in favor of the art world, the 20 galleries, the 20 families that kind of manipulate it. if there's said only a couple women artists, couple black artists, this, that, and the third. And my hacking is to be like, I want to get through, but also everyone else can see how I got through, and let's flood the gates. And if it devalues everyone's work, cool. Maybe it's going to make everything more valuable. I don't care. I just want people to know they can do anything that they really love and work hard at. And if some and then you got to work hard, love it, and then if the dice roll your way, maybe something will happen. But people are not even having that understanding. You know, like even me, you know, my journey standing on the stage, as far as with Theastre and yourself, started from an ex-girlfriend of mine who was like one of my art teachers, and she kept sending me this Theastre article. Read it. And then I read it, and she's like, he has a show at the White Cube. This is like 6 years ago. She forced me to go to a show at the White Cube, and I went, and I was blown away. And then I just became like, not obsessed with him, but I don't get like obsessed with his art. And then through the happenstance of life, me and him kept getting closer and closer and closer. And then till we're here. But you can't write that story. So my hack is like, see a prize, and then zigzag to get through, because there's no straight line, you know?
So Tremaine, it feels like you're talking about a few things. One is, in the same way that the music industry, let's say, if Rihanna is the diva for the moment, then any other Cole sister that is too close to Rihanna's sound, maybe they subdue those other voices as long as they have that kind of singular Rihanna moment, and then they're really careful how many cows out the gate. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's a kind of slow. So I think that piece about there can only be at one time an Njideka, or at one time a Toy Yin, one time a Lorna Simpson, one time, right? But the same is true of Frankenthaler, you know, these Agnes Martin, you know what I mean? Eva Hesse, that whether we're talking about black women or white women, it seems like the sisters were always informing men. So two artists are fucking. Sister's probably smarter. You know, Joan Baez is saying to Dylan, here's my lyrics. Oh, maybe when you're on stage, maybe you should do this.
Yeah.
Boo, maybe you should do this. And I think that there's a way in which we're starting
like
to
Mary Lewis or something.
Yeah.
That taught Thelonious.
Yeah.
She taught, you know, Gil Evans used to get lessons from her.
Oh,
but no one probably knows who she is.
Or I've only had one art teacher, Ingrid Lilligren.
Yeah.
A ceramic and printmaker from Otis or UC Davis or Claremont. She was one of the California 60s girls, my only art teacher. Yeah. The only person who was like, your mugs are too heavy. Don't be satisfied with the thickness of that wall. You're not a good potter yet. And then she wrote a letter and said, hey, I think you're ready to go to Japan. I taught you what I can teach you. You got to go hang out with these masters. Like, I always talk about Ingrid as the one sister who helped me believe in myself enough to make the move. So there's that one part about scarcity in that. But then I want to I guess my last point is one about schizophrenia. And I'm really talking to us all in these moments where, let's say that your disciplinary training is photography, or is fashion design, or ballet. Yeah. And then there's a system that, in order to perfect the resources of that system, needs to keep you only thinking about ballet, only thinking about photography, you know what I mean? But we know, like friends of mine who have PhDs, but they can't find no jobs. There's a scarcity in academia. There's a scarcity and there's an overabundance of PhDs. And so then you're left with, how do I use my skills and my disciplines, my passion, in a world that doesn't have a predefined system for me? I'm a photographer and ain't nobody looking for photographers. I'm a historian. Don't nobody want no historians, and they don't want to pay me. You know what I mean? And so I think that I'm curious for this room how you're carving out a world for yourself in the absence of predetermined systems. How do you make this work?
The way I make it work is, man, I'm trying to figure that out. But I know a big part of it's A-side, you know? So I think I make it.
There he is in the middle of the room.
Right on.
Yeah, like, it's funny, there's this,
We make room for each other, you're saying.
yeah, so I think that's how you figure it out. All of it's through friendship, because there's this book publisher was like, they hit me up and they like, we want you to write a book. And I was like, they're like, oh, we want you to write a book about your ascent in like the fashion and music and design world and all the stuff you do. And I was just like, that's boring. I find talking about myself boring because I know myself.
Yeah.
I think about myself all the time. I'm trying to like think about other things outside of myself. So I said, let's make the book about how the only reason I'm anywhere in life is because of all the friendships from my mom to A-side. And these people who have been my teachers. You know, you're part of the story too. You're part of the story now too. And I was like, yo, I want to name the book, Where's A-side At? And the woman laughed. She's like, that's kind of a funny name. It's obscure. But really, it's like, that thing is, where's A-side at? It's like, where's that guy at? Even if you talk about like the Joseph Campbell, who has he wrote a book, The Hero of a Thousand Faces, and draws on this concept of the hero's journey. One part in the hero's journey is like you're in like the small town, whether it be Harlem, Georgia, Southside Chicago, or Jamaica, Queens, and then you get a call to the other world. So my call to the other world was downtown New York. Then from downtown New York, it was going to London. And it says on the hero's journey, you will meet a mentor. You got to find that mentor. You got to find Ingrid, A-side. You know, like, you know, what's Nietzsche? I think Nietzsche said, if you don't have a father, find one. I was fortunate enough to have a father.
Yeah, they're fine.
And you have to find. You can't do it without these people. So I just know, like, if I wouldn't have met A-side or like you, AJ, you know, Hadara, my ex, who put me on to you, put me on to Tom Sachs, all these people. If I wouldn't have the parents I had the little brother I have, had Mr. Bass, who told me, I don't care if they don't have the New York Times in your neighborhood. Don't have it in your neighborhood. They don't have it in your neighborhood for a reason. If you don't go to the white neighborhood and buy the New York Times before you get to my class, I'm going to fail you. You know, like, if I didn't meet all these people, Samira, people that are standing here, you know, like, so many people, Jan, you know, just so many people I've met throughout my time, I'd be nothing. So that's how I figure out how to navigate, is spending as much time with people I really love and that educate me as much as I can, and spending as much time around people and around things I love, and then stuff happens, you know, like my friend.
Close this out.
Yeah.
Hey, so I wanna close us out a little bit because I want y'all to eat some food. Tremaine, the power that you're wielding to influence others, to share the things that you're learning every day with others who are curious about what you're curious about. That kind of influence is really important. And thank you for being a good steward of it. We're going to get off the stage, but because of the layout of the day, this is not a conference. It's not a TED Talk. I'm going to ask y'all that you not bombard Tremaine or Elvira or me, that y'all just keep eating, keep chilling, and we're going to be over here in the corner. If y'all want to kick it, come kick it with us and say hi. But an hour of handshakes isn't fun.
It's
So
not.
can we just continue to chill? And let's chill by thanking Tremaine and Elvira for their time. And I'm gonna protect Tremaine a little bit and say, we're gonna go sit on the sex sofas in the back. We're gonna have some tea, and when it feels right, y'all come over and kick it with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.